Hey guys, it's Miss Markham
and Mrs. Curl.
And today we are talking about area of trapezoids.
All right.
So go ahead and make sure your page is titled and write down the formula for area of a trapezoid. And after you get that written down, if you need to pause it, then go ahead and do that.
All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to our steps that we use for area of a parallelogram and area of a triangle, and we're going to find our formula chart, and we are going to find that formula under the area and trapezoid. Now again, just like triangle, this one's written a little differently than what you just had us copy down, Mrs. Markham.
And I know for me, so this one has 1/2 times b1 plus b2 times h, and a lot of us see fractions and we kind of get a little scared.
Right.
So just like with the triangle, instead of multiply by 1/2, the same thing, multiply by 1/2 is the same thing as dividing by 2. So we can rewrite this formula like we have it in our book, and you can put this on your formula chart. The area equals base 1 plus base 2 in parentheses times that height and all of that divided by 2.
And this is the formula that we're going to use when we follow our steps and write the formula down each time. This is the one we're going to use. Now, if you're more comfortable with this one, go right ahead and write that one. But that's what we're going to use. All right.
Now, all these, this base 1, base 2, are those like exponents?
No, they're not exponents, Mrs. Markham. They are like little identifiers. They tell us what we are going to look for in our figure.
All right, so these are what all of our variables in our formula represent. So go ahead, pause the video, write these down so that way you can then listen to us as we explain what they are. All right, so this is a subscript that's down below. So B sub 1, B1 is our first base, and B2 is our second base.
Does it
not
matter?
Like baseball.
Right, yeah, not like that. Does it matter which one we use for which one?
No, because with adding, it doesn't matter the order, so those just have to be my bases. Now, what does matter is that my bases always must be parallel for a trapezoid.
That's right.
So I need to choose the two sides that are parallel.
And I add those together.
And then the h is my height.
And we talked about with triangles and with parallelograms, can that height ever be slanty, Mrs. Markham?
Nope.
It has to be straight up and down. And again, it's that perpendicular to both of those bases.
All right, so let's look at a couple of examples. We're going to look at an example, and then you're going to try one.
All right. Oh, I was taking your pen, Mrs. Markham. All right, so we have this glued in number 1. Now, the first thing we're going to do is write down our formula, and Mrs. Markham has already written that right there for us.
And then step 2 is to plug into my formula.
Plug it in, plug it in.
So if I look at my formula, or if I look at my shape, my bases, now remember my bases must be parallel, meaning if they kept going on forever, they wouldn't touch. And so my parallel lines are the 3 and the 9. So I'm going to add those. And once again, it doesn't matter which one I use for base 1, which one I use for base 2. Now, Miss Curl, my height is
that one that stands up nice and tall, so it is that 5, and it's going to connect, it's going to go between your two parallel lines, and there's always that little hint, just like we did with triangles and just like we did with parallelograms, of that right angle, and that's like clue, 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 hey, pick me, because it's that one that's straight up and down.
And all of that divided by 2.
That's right. So now I'm just going to use my lovely Aunt Sally order of operations. So I do inside my parentheses first.
3 plus 9.
Which is 12 times 5 divided by 2. And 12 times 5, which is 60, divided by 2, which is 30. And again, we're going to box and label our answer. So this is yards.
And since it's area, it's yards squared.
Square yards, and then we box it. All right, and there's our answer. So as you can see, we're doing just like we've done with our previous units. So now we want you guys to try this next one on your own, and then pause it, and then we'll come back and go over it. All right?
All right, guys, so your answer for that number 2 should have been 90 square centimeters, or centimeters squared.
And notice we have our steps, we have our formula written down, we plugged it in, and if you have 8 plus 12, that's fine, but we have to have a 9 there and our 2 there.
Because our height's not that slanted part,
No.
our height stands up straight and tall.
All right, and then again, order of operations, I add, then I multiply, and then to divide by 2.
And real quick, just in case, could I have a trapezoid like this one turn the other way?
Absolutely.
And my height, in that case, may not necessarily be standing straight and tall. It may be laying down on its side, but the big thing is it's connecting those two bases.
With a right angle, making it perpendicular. All right, so let's move on over here to example 3. We're going to do this one together. So I don't see a figure in this one, Mrs. Markham.
Well, let's see. I'm told that the bases are 3.6 feet and 2 feet. So I'm going to draw one. And I'm actually going to draw this one sideways just so that we can kind of see what one might look like sideways.
And we do want you to draw this also.
So I've got 2 feet, and parallel to that, I have 3.6 feet. And then it has a height of 2.5 feet.
All right.
And I don't know what that is, but do I need that to find area?
No, I
Nope.
do not. I do not need that. So again, we're going to write down that formula, and that is going to be B1 plus B2, close parentheses, times the height, divided by 2. All right, so what are my two bases? Those two parallel lines in that problem are going to be my 2 feet and my 3 6/10 feet. And then my height, again, is that 2 5/10.
Because it formed that right angle between the two bases.
And I'm going to divide that by 2. All right, so I'm going to add those together first. 5 6/10 times that 2 5/10, all divided by 2. And when we multiply those together, we get 14 divided by 2, which is 7
So then I'm going to write my answer, label it,
feet
feet squared. Oh,
And-
I just realized that some of my work didn't show up there. All right, so there's my 5.6 times 2.5 equaling 14 divided by 2 was 7. Sorry guys, I didn't pay attention. Didn't realize I didn't show up.
Either.
All right, now we're going to have you try one. If I find
what's
the
this
area
one?
of this figure. Now, if you notice, if I connect that whole figure, it's not really one of the shapes we've talked about. But do I have a square right there, which is a parallelogram.
Right.
And then I have a trapezoid. So to figure out the area of the whole thing, probably going to find the area of each one of them and
Do that part. There you go.
find the area of each one of them and do what?
Add them together.
Add it together. So go ahead and pause the video and find the area of that figure.
All right. Let's slide that over a little bit there, Miss Markham. There we go. All right, so I'm going to do the square first. And again, we write that formula down, base times height. And I look here, that is 12 times 12, which is 144 square inches. And sometimes I like to write it inside, like if I find it, I'll then put 140 to let me know, hey, I found that part. And then
Sticky note sticking to me.
sticky note. And then I'm going to do that bottom shape, which is my trapezoid. So I have my base 1 and my base 2.
Now, if I look, I have this one gives me 16, but they don't give me what that one is.
Uh-oh.
But what do we know about opposite sides of a square?
That they are the same.
So if that one's 12 inches, then this one also is 12 inches. So if you're wondering where this 12 came from here, it's because I knew the opposite sides of that square were the same.
And then I know my height is also this, again, it's that dotted line that forms that right angle. There's your clue. So there's my 12, and all of that's divided by 2. So that's 28 times 12 divided by 2, which is 336 divided by 2, which is 168 square inches. So now I know this is 144 square inches and this is 168 square inches. So what do I do to those two numbers?
I add them, and I get 312 square inches.
Excellent.
All right. So now you're going to have two practice problems to work on and see how well you know this for yourself. Let's go over in class tomorrow.
And again, we do want you to draw these figures. And let's go over with these because this looks a little small as I'm looking at it. And we can't, I don't think we can make it any bigger.
A little bit.
A little bit.
All right,
There you
so
go.
this little side right here is 4 inches. This longer side is 10 inches. This dotted line is 6 inches, and this slanted part is 4.5 inches. So remember what you actually need. Some of that might be some extra information.
Definitely. And then this second one, I have 5 feet going across the top, 7 feet going across the bottom. The slanty line there is 6 feet, and this straight line next to the right angles is 4 feet. All right, guys, have a great day.
Make sure you show all those steps on solving those areas.